All right. Thanks for being here, everybody. Good afternoon. Just want to say a couple opening remarks. It's obviously a very exciting time for me and my family. 9 years in Indianapolis, and to be honest, I always thought I'd play my whole career in one place. The last couple years kind of changed a little bit in that perspective. So very excited to be a Viking. Just want to say, a huge shout out to my wife, Emma. Been my rocks for, going on 9 years now, and couldn't do what I do without her. My kids who, put perspective back into my life in a way that I never saw, possible. All the family and friends who've helped me get to this point, and going into year 10 is, you don't get there by yourself, right? So those are the first people I want to thank. Obviously, the Vikings ownership, met a few of them already. Mark and Ziggy Wilf, KOC, Quasi, Ryan Grigson, who drafted me in Indy, 9 years ago, making it possible for me to get here. My agent, Jimmy Sexton. And then lastly, a big shout out to the Colts family, the Irsay family, everybody involved. Obviously, it's kind of been some iterations throughout my 9 years there, but to be in one place for 9 years is pretty impressive. And I couldn't have done it without a lot of help from people in that facility. So with that being said, fired up to be here and fire them away, man. Here we go.
All right, Ryan, welcome to Minnesota. I'm just curious what the process was like of deciding on the Vikings and what tipped the scales for you to decide to come here.
Yeah, I mean, there was, a few different teams calling, and to be honest, I was actually on a flight when this was all going down, which is probably the worst place to be since you can't answer your phone. So big shout out to Jimmy Sexton for doing this via text message. But no, I think, there was a few teams involved, and as I started looking at it, like Minnesota was the most appealing place. And I think, I can probably go into super depth into this answer, but even in the AFC South, watching some of the NFC North teams, like you watch different offensive lines throughout the year, and I think you can watch a team and how they play, their head coach, who they play for. Obviously, the NFLPA report card comes out every single year, and they're always number one or number two. So all those things kind of go into it, and I saw from afar more, descriptively, it was just how well the offensive line played together. You could tell that that team really relies on the offensive line, and they're a true, band of brothers mentality, and that's what I was looking for. So I think when you couple all those things together, that's ultimately what pushed me over the edge to go to Minnesota.
Hey Ryan, welcome to the team to Minnesota. Obviously, you and Will are both coming over from Indianapolis. I guess what is it like to for you both to come at the same time, and how much does that help as well? Because just as you mentioned, the Vikings offensive line, like a lot of them have been together for a long time, and so
Mhm.
now some new faces, but familiarity with each other.
Yeah, which is always tough, right? It's the one thing in Indianapolis was that every offensive lineman there was drafted there, so we'd never been anywhere else. So, uh, when you've been in one place for 9 years, you get comfortable, and as you go and start a new journey, a little bit nerve wracking at times, right? And then, uh, 10 hours after I agreed to terms, I get a call from Will Fries. It's like, "Hey, man, I'm going to Minneapolis too," and I was like, "There's no way. I mean, it doesn't happen, right? It doesn't happen in free agency. So it doesn't happen to go to the same team, right?" So long story short is I think it's an amazing opportunity for the both of us to come in with some understanding of each other, because O-line position is the only position on the field where we truly rely on everybody else around us to do our jobs, right? It's 5 is 1, has to be that mentality. And any coming into the new season with any prior playing experience with another guy next to you is obviously a big thing. So coming in with that mentality, and I know what kind of mentality he brings. He knows what I bring. It's gonna be an exciting time.
Hey Ryan, I just wanted to follow up. You had mentioned the last couple of years your perspective changing on staying in Indianapolis. Just what had changed and why were you maybe anticipating this?
I think it was just time to move on, right? I think it was some frustrating times through certain years. Obviously, it's no surprise I've had 13 different quarterbacks since I've been there. So, I always envisioned myself playing in one place for my entire career. Um, there was no like negative impact or no major event that happened where it really pushed me over the edge. It was just I think when I left last year, and there was no guarantees in my contract. I was a free agent. It was exciting for me. Like I felt like I was okay. It's time for me to maybe check out what else is out there and move on and have a new perspective in this career. And so yeah, I can't say there's like a specific event. It was just like I'll miss the guys in the O-line room and I'll miss a bunch of people there, but in my heart, I just knew it was time to move on. And I kind of felt that way the last like year and a half. So
Yeah, Ryan, I guess we don't know for sure, but in the event JJ McCarthy ends up being the quarterback here, I'm curious like how you would see your role as a veteran center in terms of helping a first-time young starter at that position.
I guess that's the one great thing about having so many different quarterbacks was I got a new perspective on each of them, and they all have their own quirks or how they see the field or their cadence they use, and it's all encompassing because that position, you can't win without it, right? And they control the offense, they control the team, and so just having some brief conversations with JJ so far and getting a kind of a feel for people in the facility and how they view him is. He's fiery, man. Like he's got some stuff to him now, and he's got that energy that you want as a quarterback, right? And as a young guy who missed his entire rookie season, I think you need that edge where this guy's like, he wants to prove who he can be in this league. He wants to lead this team to an NFC North title. He wants to go to the NFC Championship game with Super Bowl. And I think he also understands like there's a lot that he hasn't seen, doesn't know. And so, for the last 9 years, for the most part, I've been in charge of the run game and the pass game and all the blitz lookups and all those. And so I think that was what I bring to this table is, hey, there's a young guy who we really believe in, who we know has the fire and the passion to be great. He just might not be able to see everything right away. So it's helping the offensive line, and leading the offensive line to to run the ball, to pass protect. The way that we can score points in this league is that's how you do it.
Right, along those same lines, it seems like, and I'm sure you watched the Super Bowl, there's a lot of freakish defensive tackles in the league. A lot of teams like, with Brian Flores sending crazy blitzes up the middle, attacking you guys. You guys in Indianapolis sustained a good interior pass protection. I guess what was the key to that in a changing league where there's a lot of new freak defensive tackles always coming in and a lot of different types of blitzes and things being sent up the middle?
Yeah, I think it's multiple things. Certainly you have to have the right protections, right? And that starts from the offense coordinator, the quarterback coach, the offensive line coach, and it's a peer-to-peer mentality, right? It's like we're both in this together. As a coach, I can watch film for hours and hours, and I can watch this team of what Brian Flores does, and I can get us in the best rules potentially possible. But if my guys don't believe that they can execute it or the call doesn't make sense for them, like it doesn't matter. So there has to be a communication on the coaches and the players at the same time. It also comes from the trust, right? The offensive line coach has to trust that the five of us, no matter what, and you can always play armchair quarterback on Monday and look back at the film and say, well, he should have been in this call, this call, this call. But those guys are out there doing it live. So I think it's the belief that the players have in the offensive line coach and the rest of the coaches to go out there, execute the call, play fast. We're going to make mistakes, but as long as we're all wrong, we're all right, right? I think that's the key to any offensive line playing well. And it's also the belief that you bring five guys together in April, and you have real conversations, you have real meaningful, discussions of who we are. You build a room that way in April, and you start seeing the dividends of that paying off in August, September, October, November, December, when these guys are playing 5-1, right? And even though there could be injuries here or there, guys might miss a game here or there. Like you protect the sanctity of the room, and that's how you protect the sanctity of the pocket. So that's kind of, I guess, in a little bit of way, that's kind of a corny finish to that answer. But that's how it is, man. That's how we did it in Indy, and that's how you look at great offensive lines around the league. That's how they do it.
Hey Ryan, welcome. I just wanted to ask how excited you are to reunite with Jonathan Allen, and then what role you guys see with the investment that the team has made on the interiors of both the offensive and the defensive line merging into the pre-existing identity here.
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan's a great player. A couple years younger than me in Alabama, but I mean, I just remember going against that defensive line when I was in college, and it also, made me a better player. I'm sure he'd say the same thing about him. And so to see him again, a familiar face in a new place, right, is always a great thing. And it'll be great to go against him every single day in practice. It makes us all better. And then, as far as the interior of the offense, defensive line, like the league is always progressing, right? When I first came in, it was the true 7-man protection, and it was big tight ends and all that. And in a way, offense have always kind of evolved, and they've kind of followed a little bit of college, and now it's more spread out. But at the end of the day, I think if you watch teams who win and win consistently, it's all about running the ball, having a balanced attack, and then the defensive lines are the best. Like they're able to stop it, right? Like there's nowhere to run inside. You get a team in a second, third and long, and now you're Brian Flores defense, and you don't know where the pressure's coming from, and that's how you win games, right? So to invest in both sides of that, I think is a team that understands that there's the mentality of a team wins up front, whether it's both sides of the ball. If you can stop the ball on defense, you put teams in a hard position to score points. On offense, you have to run the ball. You have to protect well. It's not just always about the receivers, right? Like if the quarterback doesn't have time, who cares, right? So, and I think, and in Indy, we always had the saying was like, as the O line goes, the offense goes. And I think that was always in the back of our mind when we went into a game was no matter what happens, like it's on us, and that's the burden that the offensive line carries, right? Sometimes we're the first people to take the criticism, last people to get the praise, right? And that's what you sign up for. That's why the offensive line is so tightly knit. So speaking from the offensive line perspective, that's what makes us who we are, and that's the mentality we'll bring this year.
Ryan, what impressed you most about Will's development in Indy?
Yeah, I mean, I could sit here and talk about him for all day, man. He's just, I've played with a lot of talented players. I've played with first rounders. I've played with undrafted guys, and I've played everywhere in between, right? And I think you look at him, 7th round pick, he comes in 21, and we were rolling for a while. I mean, we were one of the hottest teams in the AFC, and it's just kind of hard to figure out who he was going to be, right? Is he going to be a guard? Is he going to be a tackle? But the one thing he had was he had this mentality of like, no one's going to outwork me. And also, he's the ultimate glue guy. And I say that not because glue guy is like a demeaning term. It's the guy that holds the room together, right? It's the guy that is always going to break people's balls, or he's going to give you shit, and it's like that's a great guy to have in the room and in the locker room, because like the offensive linemen need that. Like you got to have that edge, and we all kind of brought that from him a little bit, and it was cool to see him mature into that role. And as a 7th rounder, play really well in 23. Plays the entire season. We're like, man, this guy is like this is his home. This is his position. He found his niche. And then this year, obviously, was playing outstanding until he broke his leg. But watching his mentality every single day in the rehab. I mean, that was an extensive surgery, an extensive rehab, everything, right? For him to get back to where he is now and to get that major contract, that's not just an investment of what he's done. It's who he is, right? Like they do their due diligence of who these people are psychologically, what they're going to bring to this team. So, and I see that every single day in Indy, and I think you guys will see that as time goes on.
Hey Ryan, I'm just curious, you did mention talking with JJ, of course, and I know it's been like a week, but have you been able to connect with anyone else either on the offensive line or just, on the team in general to sort of just get chatting with guys?
Yeah, so I'm pretty involved in the NFLPA, so a lot of Vikings, a lot of O-linemen, just kind of that's it. Typically who makes up the PA is specialists and O-linemen. So we're kind of a tight-knit group. So I've actually known Garrett for many years now. So talk to him, talk to Brian O'Neill, Brent Dole. I've known Harrison Phillips for a long time now. So just getting to know those guys, and Quisenberry and Greg Mance. I mean, these are names of guys who've either played there for a couple weeks or many years, and all guys keep raving about is how great Minnesota is. And high school teammate of mine was Jordan Hicks, so he played there for a year or two, and it's just amazing. I mean, no one has a bad thing to say about it, and so getting to know those guys, just having some familiarity with their faces and who they are as players, certainly helps me feel a little more comfortable and ease.
Hey Ryan, when you look at the makeup of Minnesota's offense with all the star talent that they have, how much easier does that make your job, and how much fun is it to know that you'll be playing with guys like Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson and whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it certainly makes your life a little bit easier, but any offensive lineman in the NFL will tell you, man, it's not an easy thing, right? It's why I'm not talking shit on Sundays. I'm not trying to make my job any easier or any harder than it already is, right? So, there's amazing talent in the Minnesota Vikings on both sides, right? It's a fact. We played that defense last year, not a whole lot of fun. Brian Flores will dial it up on you with the best of them. So, then you look at the offense with the guys that already have the additions. It's exciting, man. It's exciting because you need those guys in certain positions to make impact plays. The offensive line, we're going to handle what we can handle, right? We'll do everything we can to be successful. Sometimes you just need guys to get open and to make plays, and you need the runners to run and see the zones and to see the lanes. And so it's going to be very exciting to get into April and just to start building the team, right? That's when you build a team, is April, May, and you roll into training camp with that crew, and you start to see what you can become. But it starts off the field, and obviously the talent's going to be there, so it's just exciting.
Any other questions for Ryan?
Ryan, just one more on the NFLPA survey you mentioned and being involved in the PA. It seems like that has had quite an impact. Every free agent we've talked to has brought up that survey and what it says about the Vikings. I just wonder what you think about the value of that for players and what it means to them to have kind of something to look at metric wise, and just what it's meant for the Vikings and their reputation within players like yourself who are looking for new homes.
It's huge, man. I mean, the first year it came out, I started getting calls from people in the organization. And it was like, look, man, like I took the survey like everybody else. I'm one guy, 50 of us took it. So like, if you got to see, it wasn't because of me. So I think that the surveys had a major impact because, you know, you're a guy who's looking for a new home. You've got kids, you have a family. Like, what's the treatment of it? Like, if you treat my family well, there's a genuinely, I'm going to be happier as a person. I'm going to be happier as a player. I'm going to be in a better mood. We'll probably have more success. Like the teams that, you know, truly invest in their families or in the facilities, give guys what they need to be successful, tend to, you know, have guys who want to stay, who want to play hard for them. Just like any other business, any other employee. They feel valued. They feel like you're spending money and resources for their day-to-day life. That's better. They're going to play better, right? So I think it's just kind of a great example of that is the Vikings, right? It's like they have an A across the board. It's like those don't just get taught. Like, it's not, you know, year after year, it's the same team who's grading it. It's like you have a new batch of guys from college who come in with an expectation that their facility is going to be this, 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 and most places fail, right? Just because the money's not in the facilities, it's in the players. So the fact that the Vikings continue to have A's year after year and across the board means that they're hiring the right people. It's the right facilities. They're listening to players. The feedback is great. The family life is that, and being only there for, you know, a little over 24 hours, we felt that as you know, my entire family was there. It was didn't matter that it was my mom or my dad or my kids or my wife or a nanny. Like everybody felt the love, and that goes to show you that's a special place and that winning matters, people matter, and that's really a difference maker. So long story short is the PA report cards do matter because, you know, people read those and they see the great things that a team has to offer and they want to go there and be part of it.
Anyone else?
That's it. Come on, no hardball questions, no nothing. Let's go. All right. Well, it's gonna be awesome to see you guys in person, man. Alec, I hope whatever you're laughing at is a good time. I see you up there on the corner of the screen, just cracking up.
He always is.
I like it.
It's funny. I appreciate it.
I know. I'm just messing with you. All right. Well, excited to get up there and see you guys in person, man. So thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.